Welcome everyone to Between the Songs. This is Chris Marchand. Today, for our episode, we are happy to be able to offer an interview with our friend Andrew Montonera. Andrew, interestingly enough, has just put together an exhibit at Judson College. It's called Rich Mullins, A Legacy. And Judson College is in Elgin, Illinois, and he happened to be visiting my house because he's also just released his first book, which I'll talk about in a minute here. But in the interest of all things Rich Mullins, he has an exhibit there at Judson College, which we talk about in the interview, and Judson University, I should say. And if you ever go on his Facebook, or maybe you can look on Judson University on their website. It's really nice. He put together a really nice exhibit. I'm looking at some of the pictures here. There's some video. There's a lot of like Rich Mullins artifacts. There's some Ben Pearson photographs and some handwritten documents. There's a lot of things that Andrew has compiled, and so I was able to talk with him about that and a few things other Rich Mullins related as well. So there we go. That's what we're talking about in today's episode. A little bit of a different one, but we're happy to be able to offer this conversation. Joe, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. It's interesting. I spent a couple of weeks, because I do things slowly, reading Andrew's book. It's called By Life or by Death, and it's about John and Betty Stam, who were missionaries to China, and they were killed in the 1930s. And Andrew is related to them, not by blood, but kind of by like as a kind of a step grandfather. And I don't know, it's really cool. I interviewed him for my other podcast, Post Consumer Reports, which that longer interview is going to be coming out soon. That goes into everything regarding his book. And today, our talk, I specifically said, "Hey, can we talk about your exhibit at Judson University?" And so we got into that. But eventually, you'll be able to hear both talks. So there you go. That's what's going on with Andrew. Oh, I should say, as a reminder, before I get any further, Andrew has been on Between the Songs before, and
A couple times, I think twice.
so you tell me which ones. I can't remember all the different versions, but
Okay.
he was on for The Work You Began, which was the documentary that he put together about the Cruz family and Mullins's last concert, right? And that was a few years ago now.
Yeah, I think that was back in, I think, around January of 2021. I think
Okay.
the documentary came out in December of 2020. And so, yeah, I interviewed Andrew about that project. And then I think the first time that we had him on was a few years earlier, back when he had done, you remember when Andrew had done a petition for LeSea Broadcasting to try to
Okay.
kind of get into their archives
Yeah.
and release, they had tons of Rich Mullins footage at LeSea, and Andrew was
Okay.
trying to kind of get them to release that footage, which he succeeded at, and a lot of
Yeah.
that footage is actually now on Ragamuffin Archive as a result of that. So yeah, so I think those are the two times. If I'm missing another time, forgive me. It's been a long time.
There you go. There you go. You know, I remember when I first interviewed him, it was when I first moved into my house, right? So it's almost like, time has passed, you know. So that's how it works. And then it all becomes a blur after that. It's down back in the backwaters of my memory from 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah, I know, right?
So there you go. That interview is coming up in a few minutes here. But before we do that, Joe, this is kind of amazing. Just like Andrew, he has some of his own Rich Mullins news, which is why he's here on the podcast today. Joe, you're generating your own Rich Mullins news too. So what's going on with the Ragamuffin Archive? And so you have some projects that you've been releasing. So tell us what's going on this past week. There's some cool stuff coming out.
Yeah. So, well, as we're taping this, yesterday I put out an article on our website, ragamuffinarchive.com, that it has been basically 8 years in the making for this article. I started writing it in, I believe it was December of 2016, and it was called The Search for Charlie. And that is basically, Charlie is this obscure Rich Mullins song that I had heard about for years. on the internet. You know, it was kind of almost like an urban legend, you know, that there was this song that Rich wrote about a homeless man with a colostomy bag, and he was singing it at his concerts. And apparently, like every time he introduced the song, he talked about how it was offensive and how, or his record label thought it was offensive and they wouldn't let him release it, and even suggested that was part of the reason he got rid of his record label. And there's all this kind of information that was out there, but you couldn't find the song anywhere. And so in 2016, I decided I was going to hunker down once and for all, and I was going to do whatever I could to track down a copy of Charlie. And so I started writing this article, and my thought at the time was I'm going to write this article and I'm going to find all the different references to this song on the internet, and I'm going to put them in one article and I'm going to publish it. And then I'm going to hope that leads to somebody coming forward with a copy of the song. And as I was writing this, speaking of our guest today, Andrew Montonera, Andrew got a hold of me, and he actually reminded me of this video that was on my YouTube channel. Something I had uploaded. I think I'd uploaded it 5 years earlier, and it was this recording of behind the scenes little featurette that Caedmon's Call had released on a DVD back in 1998. And it was behind the scenes of the video shoot for their music video for their cover of Rich's Hope to Carry On. And in this little video is like a 11-second snippet of a song. And we wondered, well, was this Charlie? Because neither of us, Andrew or I, had ever heard this song anywhere else. And so what ended up happening was, at that point we had a lead, and then we started following different leads, and as it sort of started to all come together, we ended up tracking down a recording of the song. And the article was then just out of date. Like, it was like, I just kind of thought, well, okay, well, this article is no longer really relevant because we found it. And the whole idea of this article was to help try to find it. And then on top of that, I kind of thought, well, I just don't think it's really necessary anymore. So I never really bothered finishing the article. I filed it away and kind of, just moved on to other things. But I got to tell you, Chris, this article was always in the back of my mind. It always kind of just bothered me that I never did anything with it. And then the other thing that bothered me was that once we actually did release a video of Charlie on Ragamuffin Archive, it never really got the views that I hoped it would. And I really do mean this when I say, like, I'm not one of those people who like agonizes over comments and views and likes and all those things. I put the stuff out there, and I let it sit, and if it takes off, it takes off, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. For me, it's always been really about preservation. So just knowing it's out there feels like a success. But I was always a little disappointed that Charlie didn't take off a little more, because I think I had just personally invested so much in that. That was my white whale. That was the Rich Mullins recording that got away. And when I finally was able to get a copy of it, I just really wanted the whole world to hear it and hear this, this lost Rich Mullins song. And so, it got an okay number of views, a few comments, but it never really blew up. And I thought, man, this thing should have went viral. And so I was a little bummed about that. Always kind of just, but whatever, right? But earlier this year, I was talking to a guy who works with us here at Ragamuffin Archive, Hal Swift, a friend of mine, who has been working with us for the past year. And he is, he's a singer-songwriter in his own right. And every once in a while, he'll, send me a cover of a Rich Mullins song that, he'll work on. And I said to him, I said, Hal, you should consider covering Charlie. because man, like nobody knows this song and nobody else has done it. I said at the very least, if you cover this, you'll be the first to do it. And I said, but it's a cool song and it's kind of got a cool story behind it, or at least more of I should say, a story surrounding it. And I said, and so he listened to the song, a few times, and he wound it up this past summer recording a cover of the song and did a great job on it. He filmed a music video for it, and we decided we were going to put that out on Ragamuffin Archive in hopes that more people might discover this song.
Last time I saw Charlie was downtown on a park bench, and his eyes, they were empty, though his belly was round. And he told me a joke, and we laughed for a minute. Then we laughed for another, just for the joy of that sound.
And so that got me thinking, okay, well, if I'm ever gonna dust off that article and finish it and publish it, I said, now is really the time. Because it would be really good to kind of coincide with the release of Hal's cover of Charlie. And so I went and I started digging through my hard drives, looking for this article. And Chris, I couldn't find it. It was gone. I couldn't find it anywhere. I must have like 8, or 9, external hard drives that I have everything backed up on for like the past 20 plus years. And I just could not find that article on any of them. And I was really thinking, oh man, I think this is
Joe.
Yeah.
I just searched. You could have asked me.
Chris, I didn't have to ask you.
Okay.
Because I searched.
Yeah.
Because I remembered, I thought, I'm pretty sure I sent this to Chris. So I started looking through my emails. And it wasn't there. So I went on Facebook Messenger and I searched, and there it was. I was like,
good.
Oh my gosh. All right. I think I sent you a PDF file of it.
Yes, you did. Yeah, I have it.
So Chris, all that to say, I owe you, because if you hadn't taken the time to read that 8 years ago, when I completely bailed on it, I would not have had it today. And so it is out, now in part thanks to you. But I had to do a lot of work on it because it was a much shorter.
You expanded on it. It
was an unfinished story basically, and I had to go back and change some things, and then I had to add a lot. Pretty much the whole second half of the article, because a lot happened after I wrote it. And so anyway, it's there now, and it's called The Search for Charlie, the Lost Rich Mullins song. And you just go over to ragamuffinarchive.com. It's right on the front page. You can also find it under the news tab, but it's there, and check it out. And then there are links to watch the video of Rich Mullins performing Charlie and the music video for Hal Swift's brand new cover of Charlie. So really want to encourage people to check it out.
It's all pretty cool. Now, I have a few things about this, that little things to respond to.
Yeah.
Joe, you said 8 years ago, and I had to, I had to remember, I was like, yeah, when did you first tell me about this? So this is kind of funny, Joe. This is a little bit of a mixture of, there's a little bit of Indiana Jones in all of us, right? This need, you're going to go out and discover the thing, the grail, whatever it is that no one else has found before. But on the other side of it, there's a little bit of a weird conspiracy theory buzz about this too. It's like the meme of the guy from It's Always Sunny. He's standing in front of the the whiteboard, and he's got this crazy look on his face. He's like, it's this, and it's, I swear, like you have that. So Joe, you're a little bit of a mixture of Indiana Jones and crazy conspiracy guy.
Yeah, this is definitely the craziest I've ever went for trying to track down something. It was a quest, Chris.
It was a quest. Yeah.
It was a quest, and I should mention, and I do mention this in the article, there were certainly a lot of other people involved. This was not this this was not my effort alone. Andrew,
Indiana Jones needs a team.
yeah.
Too, you know.
Andrew was very involved.
Yeah.
It would have been impossible without Chris Hauser. Of course, Chris Hauser is just a legend in the Christian music industry, who was there the day of that music video shoot with Caedmon's Call. He's actually the guy who filmed Rich playing the song Charlie. And so, we would have never been able to track it down without him. But there's a lot of cool information in the article.
Really, there is, yeah.
Yeah, there are some interesting quotes from Rich about the song, from fans who saw him play it. Like, what is one really great story of a fan who ran into Rich at Cornerstone 97, and he went back to their tent and played it for them,
yes,
on her guitar. And so that
the Cornerstone that I was at,
yeah,
it's fascinating to realize there was a parallel universe, of people experiencing things like that. I mean, I got to meet him. I got to get a picture.
You met him
with him
twice at Cornerstone, right?
Yeah, once really quickly, and then once after a sound check on his main stage performance of the afternoon, and I got a picture with him. But as cool as that is, to have him come to your camp and sing you a song, I would have
wild.
Been frozen. I just would have been, this is happening, the thing that this lady, she found him. I guess she found him out in the wild, right? Wandering around, and brought him back to her campsite. Just crazy.
And I'll tell you what, I'm really thankful that that article was still in our sort of message thread, because there were a couple sources that I found, or at least one that I found back in 2016 that is no longer on the internet. It's a dead link. And and that was there's a quote in the article from the Christian singer-songwriter Sean Groves.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting story in there from Sean Groves that I found in the comment section of a blog. The blog is still there, but the article is gone, and all the comments are gone. And so I was so happy to have had that archived along with the original link, which I included in the references, but it is a dead link. But anyway, I was happy to find that, because it was really interesting. To be honest with you, if I hadn't found the article, I probably just would have never done it, because I just don't know. I would have felt too deflated losing all that work. And I don't know if I would have felt it was important enough, but I'm so glad that the article is finally out. I feel like a weight is lifted off my chest, and that I can now move on with my life.
There you go. Okay, a few more things.
Go for it.
One, in listening to the song and revisiting it, it's been a couple of years since I really listened to the song, and kind of thinking about, is the song offensive? I guess I can understand maybe how in the 90s reunion records would have been like, no, let's not put that out. I don't know, call me an old desensitized guy, but I'm just like, it's really not that offensive. It's really not even that extreme. It's really not.
It's really mild. It really is. I mean, the apparently, my understanding, or the best guess I would have from the information we've been able to track down, is just that there is a line in the song about a colostomy bag.
Yeah, it's about a homeless guy,
and Rich uses the colostomy bag as an allegory, or it's a symbolism for certain people in our society. And that's really it. They're full of crap. That is that's the gist of it.
And he felt the colostomy bag in his pant leg beside him. He said that surely it's taken all that it can hold. So are all the doctors, all the lawyers, and all the enlightened. And it sure is a humbling thing to grow old.
One line of the song, it's not really you have to think about the line to even get it. It's not said crudely or anything like that. It's really mild, but it is certainly an indictment on.
It's a challenging song, but I'm not sitting there going, "Whoa, this is this."
It's also like a 2-minute long song. It's really short,
Well, that's another thing that I was going to mention is, of all of his songs, this is a pretty straightforward, musically, pretty straightforward folk song. And
in G.
yeah, it's a pretty simple song in that sense. We're not talking about the complexity of some of the work that he did on liturgy, legacy, and all that. And I was going to say this. I know from your research that it's apparently an older song. It had been around a while, but it could have gone really well on Brothers Keeper. Like the thematically, it could have fit really well on that album.
Yeah, I think it might be a better song than Promenade, to be honest with you. And
Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Okay, we're done here. We're done here today.
and I didn't get to clarify. I don't dislike Promenade. I
Okay.
actually do like Promenade, quite a bit. Actually, the one you want to talk to on that is Beth Lutz. I don't think Beth Lutz likes that song at all,
I
from the
love
things
that
she's
song.
told me. But
I love that
I
song.
think I like Charlie a little bit more. I
Okay,
mean,
there you go. There you go.
um,
Hey, fair enough. It would have fit really well on that album, though. I think, like you could hear a Ragamuffin band version of it. They
yeah,
could
absolutely.
they could have beefed it out to a grand 2 minutes and 45 seconds,
Absolutely.
like
That's what Hal did. Hal stretched it out. It's nearly 3 minutes now.
yeah.
And but I will mention, so I don't know definitively. I cannot say how old the song actually is. Um,
Right.
but I did receive comments from people just in the last 24 hours, people who saw Rich play the song live. And one guy commented that he saw Rich play it on the Brothers Keeper tour. And another person actually said they saw Rich play it in 1992. So it clearly was an older song, but it's just one that managed to just escape being recorded for the most part, because there's a lot of recordings of Rich from those earlier years.
Right. That is
And
kind of strange when you think about all of the various recordings that Beth has and other people have contributed. It's interesting that that song has not surfaced in another form.
yeah, yeah,
That's
it's wild.
something.
Well, and as you read in the article, it was actually performed at the Lufkin concert, the one that famously was released on VHS and DVD, but was not included in that. And I kind of mentioned in the article my sort of theory as to why that's the case.
Okay. Last thing here, and one of the things you lamented is the original recording that we do have for the Caedmon's Call promo video. It's not a great version. They're sitting there in a pub with Caedmon's around, some of the members of Caedmon's around them, and it's you hear talking. There's little
You hear
things.
like power drills and stuff in the background, like drowning it out. They're
Yeah,
setting up for the music video, and it's really loud.
right. Yeah.
From the window.
So are all the doctors, all
Little
alone
box, though.
and all the night.
I'll go get it.
We'll show you the only thing for.
And so I just wonder, I joked to you earlier as like send that thing to Peter Jackson, right? The director Peter Jackson, he's helped to clean up a lot of the Beatles, some of their work, their documentary. I imagine there's stuff out there that you could clean that up and give it a nice little release on the end of some kind of project, right? You could tack it on the end of some, assuming somebody out there is going to release other Rich Mullins old music or any of his demos or re-release his albums. All these things that actually some of them come up in my talk with Andrew, but that would be a great little tack on, right? Who wouldn't love that? I mean, I'd be like, really? Oh, they added it, they cleaned it up. I'd be all for it. So
And I think that's part of the reason that I wanted, Hal to cover the song.
exactly,
And,
yeah,
because I feel like people, when I released it, several years ago onto the YouTube channel, I feel like, it got a fair amount of attention from people for a few days. And then it was just kind of quickly forgotten about. And I feel like the song deserved a second, look, because
yeah.
by all accounts, Rich Mullins was really frustrated that his record company didn't let him release this song, mentioned it pretty excessively at his concerts when he did perform it. And so it seems like Rich wanted the song to be heard. So why not, give people a chance to hear it. So I would love, for a better, more proper Rich Mullins recording to see the light of day someday, if that were possible. Peter Jackson, call me. But yeah, so I am happy though that now, Hal's version is out, and hopefully people will be able to at least be able to appreciate the song more musically and lyrically without all that noise in the background.
There you go. So check out the article on the Ragamuffin Archive website. There'll be a link in the show notes. Go through the history of the song, but also check out Hal's new version of the song itself and enjoy the video. I'm excited that you guys were able to get this out into the world. It's great. Well, with that in mind, let's get to my discussion with Andrew Montonera. As a reminder, his book is called By Life or By Death. That's come out just in the past couple of months here. But this is my discussion going over the exhibit he put together at Judson University, Rich Mullins, A Legacy. You have an exhibit at Judson College, and I've seen the pictures, and it looks like a tremendous amount of work would have went into it. I don't know, you tell me. Did you go around the world and just rob a bunch of Rich Mullins fans and you beat them up and you took all their things? How did this work? Because I'm looking around and going, where did he get that? Where did he get that? How's he compiling it? So tell me a little bit about this story, about bringing all this together.
Originally, the idea for this exhibit at Judson University was, last year they had announced that this October of 2024 they were going to do a creative weekend as part of their Rich Mullins Center for Creative Christian Expression. It was going to be a 2-day event. And unfortunately, just because of plans and just timing, they couldn't do a full creative weekend. But
maybe that's coming in the future at some point.
yeah, it could be next year. We're still discussing ideas, and I'm on the board for that, for the center at Judson, so we'll probably know more in a few months. But the original idea I had was, well, what if we got Steve Taylor's coat from the Color Green music video and just displayed it? I thought that would be really fun. And I had first met Steve in 2016 actually at Judson. He had come to do a talk about, I think, film and music, and he told me after, when we met, he said, I still got the coat in my closet. And I thought, well, that would be kind of neat. Just maybe we can just display that and just show off the coat. It's Mullins related. It's something physical, tangible that connects to his life and his story. And so I had asked Steve about it, and he agreed to loan it to me. And eventually, Judson's president, Gene Kroom, thought about the idea of doing a whole exhibit. And Judson has a gallery space, which they normally have for student artwork and displays, and I think they use it mainly for art and their architecture projects. And so all of this came together in a few months. I mean, probably the last 6 months, the whole thing came together. But I have enough connections in the Mullins scene that people were willing to trust me with some stuff, and even give me, some people gave me some stuff, some music and charts, and Reed Arvin gave me several of the original scores for songs. And
when you say original scores, are those Arvin in Arvin's hand, or are they something printed?
Most of it's printed, but it has his some of his handwriting in between.
Some notes.
Like the original violin part for Awesome God, and some of the string parts for, I want to say, The Love of God and Hello Old Friends. And so I was able to take these and scan them for archival, not only a digital copy, but for if we wanted to reprint them. So, and then some friends, some of Rich's close friends and his family were kind enough to loan me loaned stuff for the exhibit, some handwritten lyrics and some tangible materials worn by, additional to Steve's coat, tangible materials worn by Mullins. And so all of this...
Worn by
Worn,
Mullins.
yeah. Seen in photos and videos. His songs sweater, the sweater Rich wears in Ireland.
You're right.
For
the one with
Ben
the
Pearson.
arrow pointing to heaven.
Arrow photo
shoot.
Yeah, with Ben Pearson. Ben Pearson shot those photos in Ireland.
You have the sweater, is that what you said? Oh wow,
it's in the display. Yep.
Interesting.
So I was just really grateful to be able to not only be asked, but to be entrusted with a lot of this material. And what I've tried to do is not only present a unique display that also tells a story of Mullins, whether you know who he is or you don't. You can kind of get an insight to who this guy was. Here's some of his music. Here's some video clips of him and some photos that have never been seen.
Okay, so you do have some music clips. Yeah.
We have, yeah. So
that just kind of play
play
on repeat.
So we have there's 3 videos. Rich Mullins, A Ragamuffin's Legacy, the 2014 documentary, is just playing on loop, so people can watch that. And then we have the color green music video playing by The Coat, so there's some headphones. You could put the headphones on and you can watch and listen to the music video and see The Coat. And there's like some areas there's some quotes. So we have like a quote from Steve about the coat and Rich wearing it. And then we have a video from Rich's last concert at the cruise home, because we were able to display 2 of the piano pieces from the piano that Rich played at his last concert, which was in their living room.
Mm-hmm.
So all these pieces kind of came together. That's pretty much the only interactive elements, but there's different CDs of his and posters and some promotional material, so you kind of get an insight to who he was. Yeah,
you have one of Ben Pearson's really nice photographs, like a larger one. What is that? Is that...
It's a photo. It's the first thing you see when you enter the exhibit, and it's a photo of Rich in Kansas, out in a sunflower patch, and it was the first shoot that Rich and Ben Pearson did together.
Is he holding a lap dulcimer in it?
Not in that particular photo, but it's the same shoot.
Same shoot,
yeah, same shoot where he kind of has it crossed in his arms. But this photo is just Rich kind of standing forward, and he has like these sunflowers, and it's kind of in the center. He's just kind of like looking straight forward, and we thought it'd be a really good entrance photo.
Yeah. I associate that photo with like Release magazine as well. I think they might have used. They
used a few, a
few of those. Yep. Yeah. Is that an actual print from Pearson, or is that like, because I know he sells them sometimes, or he has sold them?
That is not a print, but Ben gave me access to a lot of his photos.
Gotcha. And then you printed it. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Okay, so one thing I think is interesting about this is what you've done is essentially create an exhibit that would exist like in the Gospel Music Hall of Fame or something like that. And the only difference is this is only temporary, right? But so I don't know what you do about that problem, because, proximity, right? I live 2.5, 3 hours from Chicago area. I could have jaunted up if I could like squeeze in the time. But I mean, so what plans do you have? Like, and maybe is this something that the problem is just some of this stuff you have to give back. And so how do you in years future is there plans to like, hey, we'll bring this out again?
We're still. It's kind of all up in the air right now. We're still...
Yeah.
I think Judson was very supportive. I have to give credit to Jeffrey Carl, the head of the art department, who helped, and many of the student workers at Judson who put the exhibit together, painted walls, and we printed vinyl quotes. And so Judson was very interested in doing it, and I'm just grateful that they wanted to do something like this. It seems like Rich, for anyone who doesn't know, has ties to Elgin, Illinois. He even lived on Judson's campus while recording Canticle of the Plains.
Mm-hmm.
He stayed Mitch and Rich stayed on campus there, lived for a summer.
Recording with Mark Robertson, his studios that were at that time were located there.
Yeah, in downtown Elgin. So I think it was kind of just a really cool place to have it, and just. But in terms of doing another exhibit, we're not really sure. Maybe if there's a creative weekend next year, or there has been also ideas floated around about doing a more permanent exhibit or museum space. That would take a lot of funding. Yes. But we can dream, and I hope that this exhibit is just kind of the start of what there could be, because I think there's so much to tell in Rich's life and through his music. And what we displayed, it's only a quarter of what the possibilities could be of just what's out there and what exists. And yeah, I hope that really for me, what's important is archiving the material, is knowing where is this stuff. Do we have high quality scans as TIFF files, usually at 600 DPI or higher?
Yeah.
And that's how we were able to print a lot of it.
So you have digital archives now, whereas some of this stuff was just physical before.
Yeah, so I've been able to actually digitally archive a lot of this material, and have to just kind of wait to see what happens.
Yeah.
If that will eventually materialize into other projects or,
or
gallery spaces.
Yeah, right. And I guess I there's stuff. There was, I don't know if anything's happened to it, but there was something at Friends University trying to create an archive there. It is interesting just to kind of see. It's a question of how do you preserve an artist or a thinker's legacy, right? And what do you do? Here, let me express. I'll express a semi-controversial opinion. You okay with doing that?
Sure.
I think it's ludicrous. I'll say this. I'm raising controversy here, which I'm fine with. It's ludicrous that it's not publicly available, the script of the Canticle of the Plains. And many artists, after they die, their works just become publicly available eventually. Think of C.S. Lewis has a published volume of short stories that they were never finished. So if we care so much about an artist's legacy and offending them in their death, there's no way we should have published all of these undone C.S. Lewis short stories. That, if we're really concerned about it, nope, that should be offensive. Well, the person's dead. They've been dead a while now. Mullins has kind of been dead a while now. There's things that I think, as fans, and this goes back to us, the old music question. Mm-hmm. It's hey, let's just figure out a way to get it out there for people, right? Beth Snell-Lutz has done that, where it's okay, it's out there at least. I mean, we haven't
he's done a lot.
They haven't been fully, like Deep Valley was fully released, but hey, They're available at least. Things there are some things that I think are. I mean, I'd be interested if there's other Mullins writings. Did he write any other things? Some of that stuff. I'm it's going to be okay. By the way, here's another argument. The Christian music industry has imploded. No one really cares anymore. You have Russ Taff doing a whole hour-long video swearing up a storm, talking about his addiction, and people are just okay. Actually, you know what they really are? They thank everybody. Thank you for coming out and being so real and sharing your testimony. The controversies that have existed, I would be really curious with what you are able to come up with, because it's so interesting. The way to further Mullins' legacy is to just, let him speak for himself, and we can disagree with it. Or anyway, I'm curious what your opinions on that are.
Well, I'll be honest. This is just my thinking. I would love to see a museum of Rich stuff, and I know there's a lot of people who would disagree with that. But I also know
or maybe a wing of a museum, because I don't know if you can sustain a whole museum on one guy. I don't know.
I mean, it would be tough. It wouldn't be a huge building, if anything.
There you go.
But I mean, there's been ideas floated about. Could even something at Judson on campus there be a space for something permanent? So there's definitely a lot of material, as you know. I know there's a lot of people. Just, I can say for the record that there is just a lot of stuff that exists.
I'm not this way. You are somewhat of like our friend Joe, who he'll be on this episode. You guys are like you can be completists, or at least like if not completists, there's the desire to be like, is there more out there? What is it? How do we how do we see it? I'm not that way. I'm just like, cool, man. I'm like, oh, you found the coat. I'd be like, cool, man.
And I get doing this for a decade now, though.
Right.
Like, I'm kind of at the point where it's like, yeah, it's cool. I'm glad it. Let's preserve it, but I don't get like, oh, so cool. I'm not as fanboying about.
See, this is where Catholic people. I mean, tell me, have you prayed to the coat for a blessing? Have you? I'm just messing. But isn't that funny? That's how relics happen. It's like we kind of see things as like these holy possessions.
Yeah. And I think for some people it would just be too much. They'd think we're making an idol out of Rich.
Okay.
I know for a fact some people. I mean, there was a whole discussion. I remember in one of the Rich Mullins Facebook groups, and somebody asked, why isn't there a Rich Mullins museum? And it got into this whole debate. And I think there is interesting perspectives on both sides. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you can preserve material and share someone's story, I mean, there's museums for a lot of Christian figures today. I mean, Billy Graham has a museum and a library.
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis's stuff is, a lot of that's archived at Wheaton.
A lot of it, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tolkien and
the wardrobe is there, right?
Yeah. So, again, people are just going to have disagreements with how stuff is used or presented. And I think it does have to be done tastefully.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to show an item just to show it. I think that can be done at times, but there's so many people I think that could learn about Rich's life even through such an exhibit like they have at Judson.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and like you said, there's a lot of opportunities for material to be released. It's just a matter of people putting it together, or the financial aspect is too. Because I know, Chris, I remember you really want a Liturgy, a Legacy, and a Ragamuffin Band on vinyl.
It's ridiculous.
I'd love it. But I'm also going to be that skeptic that goes, I don't know how many they would actually sell. I mean, even for maybe a small, just to reproduce it, to get the rights, you're talking way more money than
that's the problem.
It'll ever sell.
That's the problem.
Even if it was to be sold on a major Christian label, you'd have a few, maybe a couple thousand people buy it right away, and then it would never be heard from. Yeah. Sorry, I just feel like that's the reality.
Well, so what you're saying is whoever owns the rights would have to just be generous and be willing to put it out.
Yeah, or give it. I don't know the exact numbers of how much it would be cost
to get the rights
to reissue. I've been told it's a substantial amount
because of the copyright.
Because of the rights. Well, what if they remaster it?
Mm-hmm.
Would you want that? Or
sure.
Would you
probably.
Okay, so that's going to cost.
Did the tapes exist? The masters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, they have to go to that old equipment. That's going to cost however many thousands of dollars to pay someone to engineer. Maybe they get Reed Arvin. It's just going to be.
But see,
I hate it, but
I think it would not necessarily lucrative. I think it could be successful, and I think it would be successful to revisit a lot of his albums and see if there's other material that you could release with them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely you could.
Here's what I'll say too. I for my birthday, I recently just bought, the worship leader Matt Redman.
Yeah.
He has released some of his worship albums on vinyl. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, as popular as Matt Redman is, I bet way less people have bought his Lamb of God vinyl than would buy Mullins' album. I'm a fan of Matt Redman. I'm like, sure, I'll buy his. This is cool. How many worship albums do I have on vinyl? Not very many.
Yeah.
And so I think that was probably a small run. Whatever it was, Integrity Music. They put it out. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll buy it. I'm a fan, you know. So, you know, it is an interesting conundrum, isn't it? Right. So I think somebody would have to be generous to release the rights, and then a project, whoever could be in charge of it. I just wish, like with the Beatles or with Bob Dylan, there's people that would. There could be enough things to sell over the next 10, 15 years.
All the bootlegs or demos. Yeah,
it could happen, but it's a lot of work. Also, I don't know that I have the. I'd have to make it my life in a way. I'd have to be that person, or you'd have to be that person. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe you would do that. You know? I don't know.
Maybe.
Put you in charge.
There's a lot of possibilities.
Here's a question for you. Maybe the last one. I'm just stirring controversy. This one is not controversial. One of the things that I'm concerned about with Mullins is, I go back to something that I said to my wife when we were like, I can't remember. Maybe we were just married. And I was like, I said to her something like, you know, I'm just concerned that like young people today won't listen to Mullins. And I said it like so sincere, so idealistic. And she just very, very nicely and bluntly said to me, Chris, young people didn't listen to Mullins when he was alive. And what she meant was, they were listening to Nirvana. They were listening to Pearl Jam. They were, they were listening to Radiohead or whoever, right? So Mullins is already. We see him as fans. We see him as one of the greatest artists of a generation, and many people see that. But on a mass scale, not so much, ish. You know, I mean, Stephen Curtis Chapman, Michael W. Smith. They're way more popular and successful, and even then, they're kind of fading, and they're not dead. My question is, and you can comment on any of that if you want to. I'm just curious, like the Judson student body and the proximity of it. Have you seen any like resurgence of just like of a student going, that song Creed? What is that? That's amazing. Like what is calling out your name? Oh wow! Have you seen any kind of just interest among the student body?
I had a few students talk to me. We did because they couldn't do the full creative weekend, they did a one-day, like Rich Mullins Chapel Day, where they brought in a guest speaker, Rick Reckdahl, from Belmont University. He spoke for chapel, and then there was a lunch, and we kind of had a tour of the exhibit where I got to say a few words. And it was kind of neat because there was a few Judson students who did talk to me after, and they were just during the showing of the exhibit, which we kind of all walked through, but they were just kind of wondering, are there any Rich Mullins? This one guy was asking if there's any like Rich Mullins tribute bands. And
kind of.
In a way, they've done like tribute shows, but
but
there's been tribute albums, and it was just fun to say, hey, here's some songs I like, and here's. But from what I understand, in that chapel day, we did do 2 Rich Mullins. The students led the worship for chapel, and they did 2 Rich Mullins songs, The Joy of Jesus and Hold Me, Jesus.
Interesting, The Joy of Jesus. Interesting choice.
Yeah. So it kind of fits in with a worship type
For sure.
song, and I know that they did it, I want to say last year. I think they sang The Joy of Jesus when they did it last year, when they kind of announced the creative community. So it was neat to see. Apparently a lot of students, I've been told, do know who Rich Mullins is on campus. He's very appreciated. I think, like you say, it's just a generational thing. It's what young people... But there's... Even young people today, it's like, what are they listening to in Christian music? Brandon Lake and Lauren Daigle? In 10, 20 years, are they still going to be listening to them?
Exactly.
We don't know.
Exactly.
But,
we don't,
But what I appreciate about Rich Mullins is, Rich Mullins and Keith Green, for Christian artists who have passed away, Rich Mullins and Keith Green have still been able to maintain such an integral fan base.
For sure. There's something mythic about them. because of their extreme personalities. Like they're kind of their larger than life personas. I think you're right. That's why they kind of stay in the public eye or our minds.
And then especially just after they pass away, so many people there's a surgence of interest from people who didn't know them in their music. So, I mean, as someone myself who was born after Rich died, I get a totally different perspective than you as you got to see Rich in concert, you got to meet him.
Yeah.
I just kind of have this whole different perspective. Now, I might be that one in a million who is trying to really preserve as much as I can about him, but I think there is a lot you can gain from, there's still so much you can gain from their music and their life's testimony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, in a different world, I mean, you kind of have you have a semi-Rich Mullins job, but in a different world, we would have been brought on board to help bring some of these works to life in different ways, right? The Beatles, they have something every year, Paul McCartney has a documentary, and I think they're prepping Rubber Soul to be re-released, and they have a new Beatles documentary coming out. There's just teams of people working on the Beatles at all times. Now, obviously, that's multi-million-dollar stuff we're talking about here, but I don't know. Oh man, one can hope. But it's always an interesting question of just how do you keep someone's story or their life, their work of art, whatever? How do you keep it alive? It's so fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have any great answer to it other than you just let it stand on its own. And
yeah, and sometimes you do that, but sometimes like they did the Bellsburg tribute and they did Deep Valley. So even that, we can acknowledge that a group of people were at least able to put out, this old Rich Mullins live recording, which I think is a lot of fun. If people haven't heard it, go check out Deep Valley. Mm-hmm. So there's
and that's
possibilities.
True. Yeah, there is. I think I'm kind of fascinated with. I think it's when there is a great artist, it's the person themselves that we find special. Yeah. So like, I am more drawn to a Rich Mullins release than I am to people doing covers of their song. It's great, fine, do covers. I mean, anybody can do what they want, but there's just something about being drawn to the artists themselves.
Yeah.
And but
I agree. Me too. I'm that way too.
You're that way too. Yep. Yeah. I'll give you an example. This Timothée Chalamet movie where he's playing Bob Dylan. I had to resist throwing my computer across the room because I'm just like, I don't want to see this. Like, I'm not interested in cute boy Chalamet playing Bob Dylan, and I'm going to go watch the Dylan documentaries. I'm just going to go listen to the music. And it's fine. If they want to make it, hey, like do what you want to do. But there's something a little bit off-putting because I just want to go to the source. We have the real deal,
So you're going to find this funny. I've only started listening to Bob Dylan after researching about that movie.
There you go. See,
but it's reaching another generation only because of maybe that one project. Like
there you go.
I don't really know Bob Dylan's music that well, but I saw the teaser and then I saw the official trailer, and I thought, this has some interesting songs in it. I should go check out Bob Dylan's 1960s music.
You should. Those early folk
albums
are amazing.
I like it. It's just incredible. It's like I never would have even thought, though. So, isn't that funny? It
is funny, and maybe the positive spin on that, and maybe this is where the tribute records, Bellsburg, is that, maybe they're not for you. And I'm pointing at myself. Maybe they're for you. And that's the beauty of it. Yeah. Like, and maybe, we did see a resurgence of interest with Mullins with the Ragamuffin film.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And the documentary around it. So maybe,
definitely grateful that those were done.
Yeah. I love it. So I think that's actually really humbling. That helps me to not be an old curmudgeonly dude, this Bob Dylan film, Instead, you're like, hey, that's how I discovered his music. I go, cool, man, we're good now. We're good. We can appreciate it in different ways.
And you have a totally different perspective because you've known
Dylan
for probably your whole life, right?
I grew up watching documentaries. Like it just
Okay.
seemed like there was always a Dylan documentary, and I watched them, and it just like who is this weird guy?
Yeah.
And and I started getting into his music, and yeah, absolutely. But I'm even young, you know what I mean? Like he was already a legend by the time I was coming into my teens,
Yeah.
So
It's fun.
anyway, hey, it's good talking to you. Anything
Yeah.
else about the exhibit that you wanted to mention?
I don't think so. I think
It's interesting.
I think that's it.
Yeah, and I guess maybe if there are other Rich Mullins people and they have interesting things that you might want to share with Andrew, or maybe you can let him know that you have something. You do give things back if they desire to not give them up.
But I'm happy to scan anything if there's documents or posters, or someone recently found some letters.
They did.
Of Rich.
They did, yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to see stuff like that.
Scan stuff like that, and we want this stuff to be able to be for someone in the future, and so long after we're gone. So that's kind of my hope.
There you go.
And why I do this.
Even my cat agrees. Don't you, honey? All right, thanks, Andrew. It was good talking to you. Sounds good. Well, it was good to have Andrew back on the podcast once again. I will say, if you are anywhere near Elgin, Illinois, the Chicago area, the suburbs, please check out his Rich Mullins Legacy exhibit. I would like to make it up there myself, just not in the cards at the moment. As I told him in the interview, this is the kind of thing that you would kind of set up permanently, and maybe you hope to add to it, to keep expanding to it as people give other things. The coat, the Mullins coat during the Liturgy Legacy shoot. They have some honored lore of the Rich Mullins memorabilia there.
Yeah, it's Steve Taylor's coat that he let Rich borrow in the Color Green music video. He has on display right now. Pretty cool.
They should let people do photo ops with it. Give it a good sniff. Breathe in the essence of both Rich Mullins and Steve Taylor. As I kind of joke, right, in my discussion with him, it's like, sometimes we have to be careful treating these things as these kind of holy relics. We'll just have a nice museum exhibit, and it's a good way to honor him. But sometimes we can spill over into to craziness, But nonetheless, it was great having Andrew back to have this discussion with him.
You're not gonna descend from a cable from the ceiling, Mission Impossible style, and try to abscond with the the code.
That would be a fun little question to ask, which is, if you were to do that, what would you steal? What would you want to, as a Rich Mullins fan, what would you want to take home?
Well, I have to assume this stuff is all protected with lasers, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, I think Andrew, he probably just stays there at 24/7. He is on guard. I think, he's at the ready.
He'll take you down.
He'll take you down. Yeah. No, Andrew, actually, I know he has not been, because he's actually been traveling around a decent amount promoting his book, which I'll just mention one more time, which you should check out. It's available through Moody Publishers, By Life or By Death, and he's been going around talking about his book and doing some speaking and some interviews. So check out my other interview, as a reminder, on Post Consumer Reports, which should be out really, really soon. Joe, before we head out, you had another Ragamuffin Archive related announcement you wanted to just discuss.
Well, first off, I will just remind people they could check out the article on Charlie that is available right now at ragamuffinarchive.com. And if you read that article, you'll find links to watch the new music video by Hal Swift of his cover of the song Charlie. But also, we do have kind of pretty exciting news that we just announced, and that is that this Friday on November 8th, which, by the way, is Mitch McVicker's birthday, so happy early birthday, Mitch, we are going to be releasing a full-length, exclusive Mitch McVicker concert. In fact, it's called Mitch McVicker in Concert, and it was filmed by a friend of ours named TJ Thomason. TJ, he had filmed this concert just this past September In fact, on September 8th, it was at the Faith United Methodist Church in Denton, Texas. And he filmed this concert, and he reached out to me, and he offered to allow Ragamuffin Archive to release this concert film. And, Mitch gave his blessing. And so this Friday night, we're going to be having a premiere of this, brand new concert film by Mitch McVicker at Faith United Methodist Church in Denton, Texas. So thank you to TJ. Thank you to Mitch. And we just want to invite you to come out. It's going to be happening at 9 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel, Ragamuffin Archive. So come join us. There's going to be like a live chat going during the premiere. People can hang out. They can just enjoy this great Mitch McVicker concert.
Yeah, and then after that, it'll just be available on YouTube, right?
And it will be available on YouTube for all time.
Excellent. That's great. That's great. Even in the apocalypse, it'll exist somewhere. Well, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time, and bye-bye.